You did a good job actually answering some questions I had from the audience already. So.
It's very exciting to have Eric join us in Congress. It was a big victory for him. He took a risk, and the risk paid off. And he's now a member of Congress. And now he looks at the educational code of the United States of America and goes, but I promised to be a mentor. He makes up his own mind with all of the pitfalls that are out there. So welcome, Eric. Thank you so much for being here and joining us.
Thank you, George, and thank you, John. When you get elected to Congress, they send you to congressional orientation. I had 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., 1 week at Williamsburg, 1 week at Harvard University. My parents, I think, were most excited that I got into Harvard than that I had gotten elected to Congress. But about a month ago, I was able to do a forum very similar to this with George, and it was a labor forum with our friends, brothers and sisters in labor. And Congressman Miller has been such an advocate and champion for men and women in our country who are supporting their families, working hard, trying to make a livable wage. So to sit there at that forum with Congressman Miller and learn from him, and to be here today on an issue that I know is so close to his heart and that he has led our country on over these past few years, and his history with No Child Left Behind, and even before that, stands in its own right. So for me, these two sessions have been more valuable than any congressional orientation I could receive, and I hope that we have a few more. Maybe we'll do healthcare next month, George. By June, we'll have it all figured out. But my background is I grew up in Dublin. I went to Dublin High School. I went to Wells Middle School. I went to Neil Armstrong Elementary School in San Ramon. I've been a public school kid my whole life. I went to a public university, and then from there I went to a public law school. And for me, I have an interest in making sure that we have the best, highest quality public education in the world. And while I understand the role that charter schools and private institutions play, I do not want to give up on our public institutions, and I know that Congressman Miller does not either, and I will continue to look to him as a mentor and a guide as to how we can strengthen what we did with No Child Left Behind, update it, and continue to move our education system forward. I've always believed that education, especially K through 12, should be a national obsession, but a local possession, meaning that you, the educators, the teachers, the parents, the administrators are the ones who have to implement it day to day. And so while George and I can work on it at a national level, we have to be mindful of what challenges you face day to day. For me, that means really from being a member on the science committee, doing everything I can to support STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math education, to make sure that our children can compete in this changing global economy. We look around the world and we see that countries like Brazil, Russia, India, and China are doing much better. And that's a good thing. Their middle classes are growing. The inequality is not as great today as it once was. But for the American worker, that is not necessarily a good thing. It means that there are lower paying, high skilled jobs that are available. And so we know that our students are going to have to be able to compete. And we know that that starts with our parents and our educators and making sure that they're equipped to give them the skills. And I have a great interest from the Science Committee in making sure that we have STEM programs at a national level, funding at a national level that makes its way down to you so that you can adapt those programs to what our regional economies are. And we know in this area that advanced manufacturing, health information systems, technology, that those are the sectors that continue to grow, and over the next 10, 20 years we'll continue to see growth and support our regional economy and help our country as well increase the number of exports that we have. President Obama has a goal of doubling our exports over the next 5 years, and if we are going to do that, that means we have to have high-skilled jobs here, and that, of course, relies upon having an educated and trained workforce that is developed through those pipelines that you as teachers, educators, parents really will be focused on. Now, I also am a big supporter of early childhood education, and as parents, you know how important that is. And all of the studies show that young children who are enrolled in preschool are more likely to graduate from high school more likely to own a home, and more likely to have more income over the rest of their lifetime. And because of sequestration, as Congressman Miller mentioned, we are at this point right now where we are seeing public funding for Head Start, public funding for our WIC programs or our early child care programs being cut. It's estimated that because of sequestration in the 15th Congressional District, which I represent, which includes San Ramon, we will see $14 million in cuts to school funding that comes from the federal level. So that is going to be devastating. I've voted against it all the way through. Congressman Miller has. We've been very unified in the Bay Area as far as our representation and making sure that we oppose these cuts. And I like the phrase, let's turn off sequestration. I also want to talk just briefly about school safety. We are still mindful of what happened in Newtown and how vulnerable our children are to somebody who wants to do evil. And for me, as a former prosecutor for 7 years, public safety, I have a brother who is a police officer now, a father who was a police officer, and a mother who spent 10 years working at an elementary school as a school secretary. So I know how important it is to protect our schools. And the first bill that I co-sponsored when I was elected was an assault weapons ban to make sure that we take these weapons of war off our streets. I've also supported background checks for individuals as well as limiting the magazine size of weapons that we have on the street. Now in California we already have assault weapons, an assault weapons ban, and we already have a magazine limitation. Now a lot of people think that no matter what happens you already have to go through a background check, but that's not the case. And I was very, very disappointed that earlier this week the United States Senate, despite 92% of Americans supporting background checks for sales of firearms, the United States Senate failed to act on that. And they should be ashamed of that, because 92% of people agreed on something, and that never, ever happens. And the Senate failed to act on that. And I think that puts our students at risk. And so I will continue, and I know Congressman Miller is there too, I will continue to be an advocate for gun safety measures that keep our children safe. I'm also a member of the anti-bullying caucus in the Congress, another important caucus that works on bullying issues, and we know that children at a very young age can be victims of bullying, and we know what that does to the victim as well as what it does to embolden the bully so that they may act out later in life in ways that can be harmful. So look forward to your questions, John, and appreciate you having us here again
Great,
today.
thank you.